I don't usually make videos like this, and I probably won't be making a habit of it. It's just really hard to stay silent on a topic that is so near to me and my life experiences, and I struggle just to let it lie anymore. If you're like 99% of people and you're not trans, I hope this helps to give you an idea of what might potentially be going through the head of trans friends you might have, or just to give you an idea of what's on the inside of a trans person's head could potentially look like. My experiences are not a perfect representation of all transgender individuals, but I think that I can add my voice to the sea of voices before my government decides that they'd rather slit my throat. Whoa, okay, dark intro. But I doubt the rest is gonna get any better, so come with me. As a trans person currently living in Trump's America, I've had to spend a lot of time thinking about myself and my friends. Trans people, gay people, people of color, just humans. And unfortunately, it's mostly just me stressing myself out and growing more and more terrified of how many people might die before we as a country grow old of it and finally let people rest. Trans issues are far, far from the only things going wrong in the world right now, but for now I'm going to focus on this given that it has the closest relation to my own personal experiences and has been affecting me pretty hard lately. I don't feel particularly qualified to discuss at length the rest of the garbage going on in the world right now, but if you want to be educated on that, I'll leave links to videos by a few other creators that shine lights in a few other key areas in the description down below. As a trans person, I get just wanting to cuss someone out for treating you like subhuman trash and dirt. And this video is in no way trying to say that you're wrong in responding in that way. If someone comes up to you and starts pestering you about shit that isn't any of their business, you have the right to be furious and angry. I don't blame you, and to be honest, I get there too. That being said, I also want things to change, and clearly the tactic of calling out bigots and not respecting them isn't actually getting us anywhere. This video is going to get a lot of transphobic comments, hate mail, death threats, etc., etc. The standard for daring to have a different gender identity than you were born with on the internet. I could delete them or heavily moderate my comment section, but I think it's important that we all see what happens when people like me speak out online. And I'm sure that there will be a ton of nice supportive comments as well, so hopefully we can have a sort of positive outlook by the end of the video. With all the preamble out of the way, let's get to what the main point of the video initially started out as when I started writing this script before more news happened and I got a little bit carried away. How to talk to transphobes. We'll consider this a chapter 1 of sorts. I could say something like, just don't, and to be honest, that's a fair way to go about it. Not everyone has the stomach to deal with people saying such nasty things about them and getting out of it without severely worsened mental health. But if you have the fortitude to actually engage in communication like this, I think that there's good ways and bad ways to do it. Laughing at them, pointing out every flaw with their argument, or comparing them to their peers or others isn't going to help. Just to grab a real comment from the internet, I could be told, quote, "Darling, I am an old gay man, and I can tell you we are tired of all the trans and gender drama. You do not have the support of the LGB that you think you have." And retort with many things. I could talk about the fact that the LGB movement is mostly an unorganized collection of very loud right-wing idiots online. Running through his posts, it becomes pretty clear that he has gay pride, but he might as well start and stop at G because he has a good load of posts about how much he hates women and thinks that they shouldn't be allowed to vote. I particularly like this post where he claims women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they can't think logically and can only think emotionally, while refusing to listen to logic and basing all of his views on women from his emotions. So his views definitely don't have the support of the LGB either, not to mention the fact that most same-sex attracted people fall under the LGBTQ movement. It's much larger, and trans people are a minority under that umbrella, inflating the number. According to the US Census Bureau, only approximately 1.14% of all Americans identify as transgender as of 2024. I could say all of that, provide sources, and potentially even have a longer conversation deconstructing anti-women biases, along with all of the other shit, but as you've already gotten this far into the video, you probably already know what would happen. I wouldn't get anywhere, and I wouldn't make any headway. Instead, let's go back to the drawing board. Theoretically, what would I need to do to actually make a difference in the world? Well, first off, I'd probably want to be coming at it from a place of mutual understanding. Let's just say that his views are based on his interpretation of his religious background, for example. Let's say that he's Christian, for the sake of argument, since according to the PRRI Census of American Religion, approximately 66% of the US identified as Christian as of 2023. I don't actually know this guy's religion, I'm just trying to make an example. If he were a Christian and that's where he based those views, you would want to have an understanding of the Christian Bible, you would probably want to make your argument from that vector. Argue why being transphobic and crying for their discrimination would be against the Christian holy texts. That's going to have a lot more weight than just pointing out the obvious facts. If the facts are obvious, then you kind of have to assume that they know them already, and either don't believe them for whatever reason or don't care about them. They've been told a million times. You can't treat them as if they're irredeemable, because once you do, that's what they'll become. That's how we got to this point already. So many people have bought into the culture war and genuinely believe that it's a war with winners and losers. From my perspective, I just want to live my life. I'm not trying to change how non-LGBT people live. I just want the same rights and treatments as the rest of the country. The people who argued from the other side of the culture war genuinely believe that just by being trans, I'm going to adversely affect their lives, or more often talked about, the lives of their kids. They think we're rapists, pedophiles, and groomers, despite the lack of evidence suggesting that trans people aren't any more or less likely to commit sex crimes than cisgendered individuals. In fact, there's actually evidence that trans people are more likely to be sexually abused. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, in 2019, it was reported that around 47% of transgender individuals have been sexually abused by someone, which is already approximately 37% higher than the reported rates for women, which is already way too high. I personally know trans people who are the victims of sexual abuse, as well as myself, and yet the same narratives circulate about how trans people are the perpetrators of sexual violence on women and children, and the women and children must be protected. I won't lie, I'm scared. I've been spending a ton of time researching everything that's been going on, but as of January 31st, Trump's orders have started taking down articles and studies to reference this script. He's erasing any studies that might prove transgender people aren't the monsters that he says they are, or, so far, just the ones on government websites, so that it becomes harder and harder to provide evidence to prove these people that want us dead that they're wrong. He's trying to erase the fact that we exist at all. Since this video is already getting majorly personal, let's talk about that. When I was a child, I was so unbelievably depressed. I had been depressed for so long that once I managed to search within myself and find the answer, at first it felt kind of good. All of a sudden, there was a path laid out ahead of me on how to better my life. I was tentative to follow it. At the time, I read stories online where people claimed it wasn't for them and it was irreversible, and I was scared. So I sat on those feelings and kept not doing anything for years. Once I couldn't hold it in anymore, I just broke down and came out. I told myself then and there that I was done leading that miserable life. I was ready to move on and be me. I told myself that in 8 years, if I hadn't made it to the other side of this awful, daunting hallway, that I would end my life. Well, that was about 11 years ago. Obviously, I'm still here, as you might notice, but you'll also notice it wasn't some sort of phase. I've been living as a woman for 11 years. I still haven't gotten my sexual reassignment surgery due to all of the laws already put in place to slow me down. That's just going to get more and more difficult with Trump in power, restricting my rights to medical care. It doesn't help that people who started later than me won't have access to the testosterone blockers and estrogen that I take daily. That wasn't easy to get a hold of either. I had to pay a lot of money for a pre-licensed physician who would meet with me weekly for around a year before I was allowed to be prescribed a letter of recommendation. Only once I had that was I even allowed to begin getting blood work and being medicated. I've grown breasts, my face has become more feminine, and I'm happy with my progress, but at every turn I have been denied my surgeries. And all of this happened before the first week executive orders calling to bar all of my rights to medical care. Thinking back to my child self in the 8-year estimate, I feel claustrophobic, imagining how things might be in another 8 years. The 8-year agreement with myself didn't end up holding any weight. I didn't get my surgery, and I wake up every day getting in the shower and having to wash my penis. Something I shouldn't have, and shouldn't even belong to me. Every trans person has differing opinions on their genitalia. For some, it's a big issue, and for others, it doesn't bother them as much. For me, it's sort of like a constant agonizing mental anguish that only manages to be quiet when I'm working on my passions: art, video making, game stuff, etc. Sometimes it's louder, and sometimes I can just barely manage to focus on my life. Living is already enough of a struggle without worrying that my government, who is supposed to protect me, might just decide to put me into a concentration camp. Not to mention the fact that, according to the executive orders, I'm not a woman. According to the executive orders, I'm not allowed to have access to gender-affirming care, which has been genuinely saving my life. According to the executive orders, I'd be better off dead. For what? For living my life? And it's not just me, it's every single trans person in the country. So yeah, life is tough, but what can you do? As a trans person, you could try to get out of the country. If I ever manage to get the money, I'm probably gonna at least try to, as long as Trump doesn't stop people from getting out of the country. If you're not a trans person, talk to your trans family, friends, or relatives. See if they need a shoulder to lean on, and most of all, don't stop fighting. We got here because we heard a man screaming from the rooftops that he hated everyone that wasn't a straight white man, and we voted him into office. Now is time for us to do everything in our power to make sure that the people who voted for him pay the fuck attention next time. The signs weren't just there, they were obvious and shoved in everyone's face, and yet the United States still chose to vote for him. Pay attention, because you just elected a dictator that's going to cause the death of millions of human beings. People you blame for things they didn't do. People who could have made your day brighter. People who never wanted to hurt you in their lives. I'm 23 years old and I'm not ready to die. I will fight, I might die, but I will never ever go back into hiding who I am for the comfort of others. I will never take abuse like this again. I won't. And you can't stop me from being me. I will survive. I will get my surgery, and I will be happy. And you will leave us the fuck alone if you have any care for anyone around you other than yourselves. Stop following the man-child and listen to reason. To sense. Okay. I don't really know what this video was. It's all over the place. It's a mess. I'm a mess. Programming will return to your previously scheduled gaming videos soon. Thank you to my patrons, Ina_IV and Kimakaru, for keeping this channel afloat. More gaming-related videos will be coming soon, don't you worry. I'm going to put up the information of some organizations that you can contact if you're having any trouble and you just need to talk to someone. And if you need help getting out of the country, here's a link to that as well. Those will all be going into the description of the video. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful night or day or whatever, and hopefully my next video will be coming out soon. I've got the script finished, and I just kind of need to record and edit it, so hopefully it wouldn't actually take that long. Otherwise, you can find me on twitch.tv/honeyonitwitch, and I suppose I will see you guys later. Kijo out.